What's good, YouTube and Twitch? We're live streaming right now to Zodiac Duelist TV exclusively with a top 20 Floodgates of all times. And kicking off our honorable mentions is Shadow Imprisoning and Light Imprisoning Mirror. Specifically stopping dark and light monsters once upon a time was good enough in the game, but so many Floodgates have been released to stop generic abilities, stop generic summonings, that no longer were Shadow and Light Imprisoning Mirror viable recently into the game. So I feel like a small amount of power creep has happened here to an extent that this just becomes an honorable mention instead of a top 20. So let's go ahead and move into the number 20 slot with Mistake. Mistake stops players from generically searching into the game. So, similar to the impact that Thunder King Raya once held with a body on board, into the back row came Mistake, able to flip up, definitely impacting Necros format, where you could play this in Burning Abyss, which actually ended up winning the Nationals during Necros format, or Shadol's, and then continuing on to be able to be a side deck card. Its original secret rare, ranging up to $60 for just a side deck card, definitely earns its spot into the top 20. And our number 19 slot is ARCHLORD KRISTYA, one of the OG monsters, floodgating any special summon in the game. ARCHLORD KRISTYA also finds its ways in the OCG, from Mannequin Cat to being summoned, but originally it found its ways in so many different decks to be able to find its way just out there. Oh, remember Agent format? Oh yeah. It definitely found its way with just 4 fairies to be specifically out there and be a card that not only gained you advantage back, but would floodgate monsters from being special summoned, period. And the number 18 slot, I'm going to give a tie to this one. And it's currently in the format Rivalry of the Warlords and Goes in Match. Both of these kind of floodgate attribute or type. Now, these decks typically come together as one whole type that shares an attribute. So Rivalry or Goes in typically doesn't affect one or the other. They usually work together in those specific decks. We look at Altergeist, they're all spellcasters in the same type. We look at Yo Boo Boos, etc. So these cards throughout time have come back and forth and are actually $7 to $8 common / rares at this point in the game. But at the same point, are susceptible to Spell and Trap Disruption. They're also susceptible to just running into a deck that plays all worms, such as True Draco. You really do have, you know, all the same type or attribute able to come through and bust this out the window. In the number 17 position, we have Abyss Dweller. Abyss Dweller here is access from the extra deck and floodgates the graveyard for an entire turn. No effects can activate in the graveyard. So any deck that looks at the graveyard, such as Burning Abyss, may be great in all time, that resources through the graveyard, just shut down by a rank 4 boy from the extra deck. In the number 16 position, perhaps the ultimate floodgate from the extra deck, is Shockmaster. Oh yeah, you can shut down declaring spells or trap or monster effects. Once per turn, you can detach a material. You declare a type of card, monster, spell, or trap. Oh boy, we're shutting this down. But it did take 3 level 4 monsters and also lasted very, very little in our format in terms of where the summoning was worth the body on board. If it was in the game today, I think it would have a much greater impact. But for the time it lasted in the TCG, I think it does end up back here in terms of floodgates, because yeah, it could have had a bigger impact, but it did get slapped down before it really could. Speaking of floodgates from the extra deck, contesting that is the number 15 spot, Gooey Gooey One Gooska Boy. In Spiral format, we definitely saw this bust out. We actually got it late because we didn't get it originally in our Battles of Legends slot. But Gooska came out as a super rare, relatively affordable to us, that basically said, I am lose 1 turn from the extra deck. I decide when you can activate your monster effects or not, but I also can just turn into attack as an aggressor out of my floodgate mode. So committing to the board in a sense that you don't have to continue to floodgate, you can turn yourself off at any point. That's pretty good. And our number 14 slot, taking down a Nationals format, is Domain of the True Monarchs. We're shutting off the extra deck for good as long as I control a tribute summon monster, but that's the point of my deck. Domain definitely found its way to not only give that advantage, but also give the advantage of giving attack to those tribute summoned monsters. And then you had other cards offering protection, but Domain, a singular field spell offering an additional bonus to shutting off the entire extra deck, searchable by terraforming, able to work with any deck that could just offer a tribute summon. Oh yeah, those were big. But not needing to even access the extra deck is Jin, Nekroz format, an entire format dictated by a card, just sending this to the graveyard for you to ritual summon, shutting off special summons, period. Oh yeah, you had to play the quote-unquote Jin outs to even get past this one. So going from just shutting off the extra deck to all special summons, period, Jin was a bit more of a factor than Domain itself. And speaking of cards that shut off special summoning, how about Fossil Dyna in our number 12 position? A card that just looked at everything and said, nope, but also had an additional destroying effect in its flip summoning and then turning on its Floodgate. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, Fossil Dyna has a lot going on in the ability that it doesn't need a tribute summon, but something that actually gains an ability in its tribute summoning and gaining that extra attack is Vanity's Fiend. Starting with my own roommate, Billy Brake, in 2007, and Dad format, the very beginning, tribute summoning out and saying, nah, you can't summon it. I feel like Vanity's Fiend extra body of attack gives it the edge over Fossil Dyna. I feel like Vanity's Fiend has that edge of, while I needed a resource to tribute, I protect myself instead of needing a card behind me to hit me. Also, I'm a dark type, so if I'm dead in your hand, a lure works with me, etc. But just on the field, as a whole, this 2400 body is going to work better than the 1200 body in general. And our number 10 spot, current day hand trap, Drone Lockbird. Yes, this is a floodgate. Once I activate, you're not adding decks, similar to Mistake, from your deck at all. You're not adding cards from your deck. Drone Lock is a bane to a lot of players' existence, in the sense that right now, if you draw Drone and your opponent doesn't in our current format, it's donezo. Kind of like Maxi, but Maxi is not a floodgate in the fact that I can play through you. I can decide I'm going to continue summon, and attack you for game. Droll says you can't add from your deck. You cannot add and game me. Like Maxi says you can summon, game me. Droll just ends the ability. That's where the floodgate comes in. In our number 9 position, we have a floodgate that's changed over time. Necro Valley has changed its text time and time again and actually become its most powerful in recent memory. But we've had a format where the entire top 3 of a YCS was Gravekeeper, 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 and even in Necros format, we saw this resurge to say, nah, you can't add to your ritual spells or banish those or use those for resources, and we even see it today have an impact. If you were to play a Necro Valley today, nope, can't banish Trickstar Reincarnation. Nope, you can't access those Go-Key monsters from Graveyard. Necro Valley finds its way into format after format, but a card on the ban list that ends up at 1 that just can't be consistent enough anymore is Macro, actually just deciding you don't get a graveyard versus you can't access your graveyard. That's why it steps up over Necro Valley here, deciding that I'm going to completely rob you of the chance of any graveyard effects activating because I'm going to banish them instead. And also, hey, trolling the chat, shoutouts. But yeah, definitely Macro decides you just straight up can't have a graveyard. It's very interesting to see that. And our number 7 position, first, you can't have a graveyard. How about you can't have any spells? Naturia Beast is going to come in and just decide, hey, I'm going to mill card after card, resourcing my own deck in order to stop you from activating spells. So you just can't activate anything, but you need a specific Earth Tuner plus 1 or more non-Earth Tuners, very locked into an archetype. Whereas our next card, Anti-Spell Fragrance, can just be played and shut down Pendulum decks. You can't even activate a Pendulum spell card with this card at all. You actually come in from the extra deck, coming in hot, and look at certain formats. Your deck is now too slow. Sky Strikers? Oh, you better have a quick play that's going to activate eventually. You better have something immediately, or Anti-Spell could just allow me to two-turn your deck completely. In the number 5 slot, Dimensional Barrier. Dimensional Barrier is the most versatile Floodgate, perhaps. You can choose Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, or Pendulum and decide that they can no longer summon that this turn. You can continue to summon that yourself, or your opponent can try to play around it, but seeing the route of plays that they have and being able to activate it was amazing. It would shut down entire Zodiac boards and allow you to win and push through them, and currently, Link format kind of bypasses this. You can Link summon through this, but in the past, very powerful, and even in the future, Thunder Dragon the deck, perhaps this is just going to come through and destroy Thunder Dragons. In the number 4 position, however, how about you can't special summon at all continuous? I can pay 100 and negate all your special summons, forcing you to use those resources to even make me pay life points. I think that's a little more effective than Dimensional Barrier, because not calling a specific type and being able to play through multiple types. Oh yeah, remember Oppression Gadgets? Hey, Robbie Cole, you're having a good time. But in the number 3 position, paying a few life points per turn to take care of everything, is Imperial Order. No spells at all. How about that one? Being able to just shut everything off, earning its spot in some of the original ban lists, and coming off recently with an errata. Imperial Order is just a monster of a card. But in the number 2 position, how about, instead of spells, the main cards of the game, Monstercardo. Monstercardo is shut off with Skill Drain. Now this is actually not as restrictive in Japan somehow, but in our format is limited to 1. You're able to actually just drain the effect off every monster in a trap form for only 1,000 life points. It's insane. You can activate your own effects, go off with your own effects, and wait till you have an effect your opponent needs to activate to shut things down for the low cost of 1,000 life points, 1/8 of your life points. What could be better than that? In the number 1 position, we have Vanity's Emptiness, a card that after you do all your special summoning, you do all of your setup, you shut your opponent off. Jin on crack. Definitely, Vanity's Emptiness just shows itself in the form of Patrick Coban actually taking down a Nats format, a card obscured from STBL that eventually became the most expensive common of all time at $30 for a good reason. You shut off all special summoning from the game when you decide it. So, thanks for watching today's top 20 here. We kind of restricted to just 10 when it came to Floodgates. There's so many Floodgates in the game that impact. What did I miss here? Thunder King Ryo, like I said, I think Mistake is personally better. Maybe you think Thunder King is better. This is a discussion. Like the video if you enjoyed the discussion. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I do hope you enjoyed your time here. Thanks for watching, everybody.